Wisdom is one of the greatest gifts a human being can receive. But wisdom, when left unguarded by humility, can quietly decay into pride. This is the story of a man who began with divine wisdom, rose to unmatched power, and then slowly lost his way. This is the story of Solomon, the wisest king who ever lived. Solomon did not begin his reign with ambition. He inherited the throne at a young age. After his father David, Israel's greatest king, the responsibility was overwhelming. When God appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you," Solomon did not ask for riches or power or long life. He asked for wisdom. "Give me a discerning heart," Solomon prayed, "so I can govern your people and know right from wrong." God was pleased. Because Solomon asked for wisdom, God gave him not only wisdom, but also wealth, honor, and peace beyond any king before him. Solomon's wisdom became legendary. Kings and queens traveled from distant lands just to hear him speak. The Queen of Sheba stood in awe of his understanding. His judgments were fair. His leadership was stable. Under Solomon, Israel experienced peace, prosperity, and influence like never before. At the center of it all stood the temple, a magnificent structure built to honor God. When Solomon dedicated it, he prayed with tears, humility, and reverence. God's presence filled the temple. It seemed that Solomon would rule wisely forever, but power changes things. As Solomon's kingdom grew, so did his appetite. He began forming political alliances with foreign nations. And to secure those alliances, Solomon did something God had explicitly warned against. He married foreign women. Not one, not a few. Hundreds. Over time, Solomon accumulated 700 wives and 300 concubines. What began as political strategy slowly became spiritual compromise. The Bible says something subtle but devastating. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods. The wisest man alive stopped listening to wisdom. Solomon built altars not to the Lord, but to foreign gods. Gods of pleasure, gods of power, gods of convenience. He did not abandon God suddenly. He drifted, one compromise at a time. One exception justified here, one indulgence accepted there. The man who once prayed for discernment now ignored the very wisdom God had given him. Solomon had knowledge, but he had lost obedience. He had power, but he had lost restraint. And God noticed. The Lord spoke to Solomon and said, "Since this is your attitude and you have not kept my covenant and decrees, I will tear the kingdom away from you." Not immediately, not dramatically, but inevitably. God would preserve the kingdom during Solomon's lifetime for David's sake. But after Solomon's death, the kingdom would be divided. The consequences of compromise would fall on the next generation. Solomon lived long enough to feel the weight of his own mistakes. Toward the end of his life, he wrote words filled with regret and clarity. "Meaningless. Meaningless," he wrote. "Everything is meaningless." This was not the voice of arrogance. This was the voice of a man who had tried everything: wealth, pleasure, achievement, power, and found them empty without God at the center. Solomon concluded with a simple truth: fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. But the damage was already done. After Solomon died, the kingdom split in two. Civil war followed. What wisdom built, compromise destroyed. This story is not about intelligence. Solomon was brilliant. It is not about success. Solomon was unmatched. This story is about what happens when power removes the guardrails of obedience. Wisdom alone is not enough. Success alone is not enough. Even divine gifts must be protected by humility and discipline. This is why Solomon's story still matters, because many people don't fall at the beginning of their journey. They fall after success, after influence, after comfort. The danger is not ignorance, right? The danger is forgetting God once you no longer feel dependent on Him. Solomon teaches us a hard truth. You can be wise and still make foolish choices. You can know the truth and slowly stop living it. When power goes unchecked by obedience, it eventually becomes destructive. But Solomon's story is also a warning we can still respond to. Wisdom must be renewed daily. Humility must be protected fiercely. Obedience must matter more than convenience. Because power doesn't ruin people overnight, It ruins them quietly when reverence fades and compromise becomes normal. Solomon began his reign on his knees, asking God for wisdom. He ended his reign warning the world about the emptiness of life without God, and his story asks us one final question. Will you guard your wisdom, or will power slowly make you foolish?